Hi everyone, my name is Abhinav Avvaru. I'm a junior in Nashua High School South, and my talk is going to be about nitrates in drinking water. So I'm sure all of you guys have heard of contaminants such as E. coli and lead playing a significant role in public health. It's not very good at all. However, there's also one other contaminant out there, nitrates, which are very underrated but are slowly creeping up on us and being a bit of an issue to public health as well. So who am I to be really talking about nitrates? Why am I talking about this talk? So last summer I visited California, and while I was there was a buzz surrounding the well water in the surrounding regions. Advocates were saying that this well water was exposed to an excess concentrations of nitrates in it, so it wasn't too great to be drinking. This really surprised me, and I began to research a bit more into nitrates. Previously, I'd heard of E. coli and lead being a bit of an issue, but I'd never really heard of nitrates being that big of an issue. So I began to research more into nitrates, and I learned that nitrates commonly occur in agriculture lands. This really surprised me because if this was being a problem here in the United States, I can only imagine how big of an issue it would be in third world or developing countries, in more agrarian societies, where we might not have the greatest data regarding nitrate contamination. So I realized this was, pretty bad, and then I researched more into nitrates. This culminated in me building a nitrate-specific sensor and a nitrate filter for drinking water, which I entered my state science fair. I won first overall. I was selected as one of 3 people to represent New Hampshire in the international fair, where I was honored by the Environmental Protection Agency with a special award. But one thing that really stuck out to me in all my research was one specific statistic, and that was that 60 million Americans got their drinking water from a water source that was exposed to a high amount of nitrates in it. This really showed that nitrates are a significant issue, and you don't really hear much in the media about nitrates, meaning that it was really underrated, but a big issue. So you're here sitting and hearing me talk about nitrates, but you might be wondering, what are nitrates in the first place? So nitrates are a form of nitrogen that's commonly found naturally. It's a big part of the nitrogen cycle. It's also used in industrial and agricultural processes. What really makes nitrates dangerous is when there's an excess amount of it. So there's 5 different sources of nitrates. These are the main sources. The first one, naturally, that occurs from fixation through bacteria and lightning. This is a part of the nitrogen cycle. There's also 4 other human-based sources. This include from agriculture, from nitrogen-based fertilizers, from septic and sewage tanks, and also from animal manure. These human-based sources are really what make nitrates dangerous. Think about carbon dioxide. By itself, it's really essential for us to live here, but when in excess amounts from human-based sources, that's when it becomes a bit of a problem. That's the same thing with nitrates. Furthermore, nitrates are really mobile, so they really easily get into our drinking water sources, especially with groundwater and in surface waters and in our aquifers. Nitrates are also colorless and odorless, so the average consumer is not going to be able to very easily tell when their drinking water source is heavily contaminated with nitrates, as opposed to other contaminants like lead and E. coli, which create a noticeable difference in color, taste, or odor of the drink. Nitrates also severely damage our body when in excess amounts, especially in infants. So you can see a picture right here. That's a picture of a baby with blue baby syndrome. That occurs when too much nitrates are ingested by infants. And basically what happens is these nitrates get converted to nitrites in our body, which then results in hemoglobin, a protein that carries oxygen throughout our body, being converted to methemoglobin, which essentially leads to oxygen starvation and can lead to even deaths, and it's really, really fatal. There are also a lot of other health effects which are still being researched, but there's a correlation showing between high nitrate concentrations and these health effects, which include impaired thyroid function, birth defects, and adverse pregnancy outcomes. So as I said before, nitrates primarily affect farmlands. So right here is a map of the United States. The areas that are in red and in orange are areas where there's too much nitrates and there's too much nitrogen output, especially from human-made sources. That's mostly in the Midwest, in our breadbasket states, showing that really nitrate pollution affects our farmlands and our farmers the most, which is not good at all. Along with that, nitrates, they are a big issue right now, but they're going to be a bigger of an issue in the future as well. And we know this based on nitrogen fertilizer-based trends. The nitrogen fertilizer usage has almost quadrupled since 1964 to present day, which shows that nitrogen fertilizer usage has just been constantly increasing, and it will continue to increase to accommodate the food needs of our growing global population. That means that nitrates, even though they're a bit of an issue right now, they're likely to be a bigger issue in the future because nitrogen fertilizer usage is probably going to increase as well. So you might be wondering, okay, that's cool and all, but what can I really do about it? So you can do 3 different things. First of all, raising awareness. That's really important about this issue because not a lot of people really know about it. I mean, hell, even I didn't, like 2 years ago, really know what nitrates were. If we raise more awareness about it, then we can go to policymakers and hopefully enforce more clean water acts and stuff that increase the quality of our drinking water. Another thing that you can do is if you work with crops or if you're a gardener, you could adopt safe fertilizer usage practices. This is really important since that means that less nitrogen fertilizers could be, the runoff would decrease from these nitrogen fertilizers, which results in less nitrates being contaminated in our drinking water supplies. Furthermore, if you work with animal manure, you could definitely try to adopt safer manure usage practices to prevent contact with the manure into the drinking water, which can also increase the quality of the drinking water. So in conclusion, nitrates in drinking water are a pretty big of an issue. If we work together to raise awareness, we can combat this issue to provide quality drinking water for all. Thank you.